Good morning, everyone. As you can tell by the wreath and the purple vestments, we are now in Advent. Advent, the 4 weeks of preparation to get us ready for the birth of Jesus at Christmas. If you're joining us for the first time today, or the first time in a long time, welcome. We are glad that you're here. And you're joining us at a great time, because today we're starting a new message series that we are calling What Are You Waiting For? We're always waiting for something, from your turn in line at the grocery store, to that package from Amazon, or that next promotion at work, or a vacation, or something else. But whenever you're waiting for something, you think that implicitly, that thing you're waiting for, when you have it, it's going to give you some sort of fulfillment. And this happens with big things, and it happens with little things too. Like, for instance, if I'm tired and I'm in line at the drive-thru for coffee, I know once I get that cup of coffee, I'm going to feel so much better. It's as if a piece of me was missing, but then I am whole. And this is true for each of us, because for all of us, at some level, there is a piece missing from your life. And as long as that piece is missing, you are not going to have that fulfillment for which you long, that wholeness for which you long. That wholeness is out of which that holiness grows. And that is the wholeness that Jesus wants for you. Not in 10 years or 5 years or in the fall, but now. So let's get moving. What are you waiting for? One of the themes of today's readings is the first coming, which happens at Christmas, Jesus' first coming. But then in the gospel today, Jesus is talking about his second coming at the end of time. We heard, the Son of Man will be seen coming in a cloud with power and great glory. The biggest point of today's gospel is not that Jesus is coming back, but how you wait for him. Because between his first coming and his second coming, there's an individual coming to you, into your hearts. And for that, you have to be ready now. But Jesus says, beware that your hearts do not become drowsy. Now, when Jesus speaks or acts, he always starts with the heart. Even when he performs miracles of physical healing, he's always pointing to the healing of something that's wrong with the person's heart. And it's true. Every spiritual battle in life is fought on your heart. That tension that we feel between anger and patience, selfishness and generosity, or anything else. Because it comes down to how you fight in here. Because how you fight in here determines everything that happens out there. And as Jesus tells us, if your heart is asleep, you've already lost the battle. To keep our hearts awake, Jesus calls to our attention 2 pitfalls that are as real today as they were in Jesus' day. First, carousing and drunkenness. Now, Jesus is not talking about the legitimate enjoyments that make life worth living. He's talking about escapism, those things that you turn to for distraction and relief from the boring or the unpleasant parts of life. And we all have them. Maybe it's a few drinks in the evening, a couple hours on Netflix, endless scrolling or continual buying or whatever it is. But whatever it is, escapism and dissipation, they always go hand in hand. Call me old-fashioned, but I think that all of the recreational marijuana stores that are opening up around us are signs of people who are trying to escape They're reality. And there's a world of difference between self-care, which builds you up, and self-medicating, which pulls you down. Now, don't get me wrong. Pleasure isn't bad. Pleasure is good. God created it. But it's meant to be enjoyed when it pulls us together around things that are good. Family or friends or love or anything like that. What it all comes down to is Jesus wants us to use the good things of this earth in a way that does not put our hearts to sleep, because it's a spiritual battle. Although that being said, I did sleep really well after Thanksgiving dinner. The second thing that Jesus warns us against are the anxieties of daily life. When you are overwhelmed by worldly things, your walk with God is hindered. I know for me that when I lose the proper perspective in things in the office or in my personal life, it's like I become an engine that is seized, and it's hard for me to move forward effectively. That's why Jesus wants us to have the proper perspective on everything. And the perspective is really quite simple. Jesus is bigger than all of our problems. Jesus is bigger than all of our problems. And the more we forget that simple truth, the bigger our problems always seem. Because think of this. God, in his omniscience, he already knows how your problems are going to work out. And then finally in the gospel, Jesus says, be vigilant at all times and pray. If we're not on watch, we have a tendency to get caught up in whatever's happening around us. And then little by little, our hearts fall asleep. It's kind of like going to bed at night. When you go to bed at night, you usually don't remember the moment you fall asleep. You drift into it. And the same thing happens to our hearts when we are not being intentional about taking our next step in following Jesus. If you're not growing in discipleship, you're drifting backwards. And if we're honest, I think we've seen this happen with many people through the course of the pandemic. They didn't even notice it was happening. The same thing happens in our relationships. When people stop talking, they drift apart. In our intimate relationships, when we stop sharing our hearts, we drift apart. If you and I are not in communication with God through prayer, we drift apart. And then our hearts fall asleep. That's why prayer is so important, because prayer keeps us close. And this is especially true if you remember before you go to prayer that you're speaking your prayers to an actual person who sees you, who hears you, and who loves you. Not too long ago, we mentioned a type of prayer that is made for a particular intention over the period of 9 days, a novena. And as you leave today, we have these prayer cards that we'd like you to take. On December 8th, we celebrate the feast, the solemnity of Mary's Immaculate Conception. And I figured to help us get ready between now and then, we could all join together in prayer, praying a novena, to ask Mary's help with something, whatever it is. Maybe you want to pray for yourself or someone else. Maybe you want to pray for world peace, or maybe you just want to pray for peace in your family. Maybe you want to pray about your concern from this new COVID variant to something that you want to have happen at work, whatever it is. But if we can join together in prayer, if we can ask Mary for help, I guarantee you are going to receive 3 things. First, you're going to grow closer to Mary, who's the mother of Jesus, and your mother too. Second, you're going to keep your heart awake. And third, you might not get what you ask for, but I guarantee you that you are going to receive a grace that you need. So what are you waiting for?